Happy June to you. Welcome to the Maple Grove City Report. I'm Dave Kaiser along with Heidi Nelson, Maple Grove City Administrator. Thanks for joining us once again today.
Thank you.
We've got a long meeting to talk about, so stick with us here. You had a longer meeting that was on June 4th, a couple of major items, some that were tabled. Also a number of things happening in the month of June and in July in the city of Maple Grove, so we'll get to those in just a couple minutes. Let's first hop to the council meeting, and on the consent agenda, a couple items that were pulled for further discussion. One was Brick and Bourbon, just a little update about some landscaping, I understand.
Yeah, just the landscaping plan wasn't really noted in the approvals there for that patio improvement, so Councilmember Hanson had requested that we take another look at that and then look at the landscaping requirements for that site. So that'll be included in that resolution of approval.
Very good.
Yep.
One other item from consent that was pulled on June 4th was the liquor license renewals, and not specific to anything that's being renewed now, but maybe a look ahead and some discussion. Tell us a little what happened there.
Yeah, so you know, on a regular basis, the police department collects data. We call it polled data. So basically, it's place of last drink data, and we collect that on all the DUIs that we deal with here at the Maple Grove Police Department. So if someone's arrested for DUI, we collect data about where their place of last drink was, and part of that is just to kind of understand what's happening in the establishments in Maple Grove, you know, from an over-serving perspective. We also kind of look at calls for service and try to look at things that are more, you know, over service of alcohol related, that kind of a thing. But today in our code, we don't really have a manner in which to apply conditions to a license where we see maybe problems starting to come about. Sure. And so I think the request was to take a look at that in the code. I know there's other cities that have started to put in some of that language that allows us to put some conditions on a license if we see, you know, these sort of patterns of over service causing problems in the community. So we're going to be taking a look at that city code language and bringing that back for council consideration in the future. All
right, we'll keep you up to date on that. Moving ahead, there was a large crowd at this meeting for a couple different reasons, but one reason was a very nice reason, some special business for officers sworn in.
Yeah.
Give us a little recap of that night and all of the people there and some of the other things that happened behind the scenes on a night like this.
Yeah, so 4 new officers sworn in. They've completed their FTO, so they're now, most of them are out on the street as a, you know, independent patrol officer. Prior to the swearing-in event, the chief and his leadership host kind of a family academy where they invite the family members of the new officer in to kind of talk about, you know, what happens now with their family member as a member of the law enforcement team at Maple Grove. You know, being a patrol officer brings kind of special conditions to your life in terms of, you know, the shift work and the variations thereof and kind of the risk factors associated with that work. So I think it's a great opportunity for the leadership of the police department to visit with those families and kind of talk through some of those issues and certainly respond to any questions or concerns that they might have. So that's kind of the precursor to the meeting. So we swore in 4 new officers: Alexander Daniel, Brad Lind, Jacob Uhl, and Paige Bleasel. So 4 great new folks coming to the department. A few of them had experience with other departments, so coming to us with a little bit of, you know, experience under their belt, and some coming through our CSO program. So really happy to have them on board. You know, we've talked about the challenges in recruitment and hiring in law enforcement, and not unlike any other department, we're seeing retirements happen with some of our longer serving staff, and so we're, you know, kind of in this continuous effort to stay up to full strength. And so I think this gets us close, but we're still in the hiring process right now. And so it was great to get these 4 out on the street serving the community.
Very good. Congratulations to those 4. And as you mentioned, not the only place hiring. We'll talk a little bit more about that in some other areas later on in the program. So if you're looking for a job, you might want to listen in. Let's talk community development. This is where the bulk of the 2-hour, 45-minute meeting was held. The first item was a interesting one by Lake Edwards, 6263 Nathan Lane. And give us a little history of this lot, because it's an interesting one and something the city had to look at to kind of bring maybe things up to date.
Yeah, so this is right down kind of that 169 63rd Avenue area. kind of one of the older platted areas of the city, and so was platted at a time where the lots were much smaller and maybe a bit irregular in size in that area. So this lot is a vacant lot currently, and we had a builder come forward wanting to build a home on this lot, but with the setbacks and given kind of how the lot was platted, would have yielded kind of a really tall, skinny house. And so they made a request to deal with the setback issues, to maybe, not have to go so tall to get the square footage to make it a saleable home. So the Planning Commission was open to this option there and provided an approval recommendation, and so council had some discussion about that. Some concerns of the neighborhood were registered that evening, as well as at Planning Commission, but I think the council landed that they felt like this was a reasonable solution and provided a home that would be within the character of the neighborhood. So this one gained approval, so we'll likely see a home constructed there on that site, and then the builder intends to sell that for owner-occupied home.
Very good.
Yep.
Next item under community development was the shops at Arbor Lakes, and this is something we mentioned in a previous program, and it continues through the process here. This is the shops looking at that central area. Give us a little background of, again, for people that might not know, what's in that area, how it's been used, and what the thoughts are for the shops going ahead.
Yeah, so the shops, they've gone through a few renditions of how they've addressed parking. They've made changes over by the Trader Joe's areas a few times, and then most recently in the last year. And then, of course, they made the transition from the parallel parking to the diagonal parking in front of the storefronts.
Right.
And then, of course, the addition of Portillo's out at the street edge that shifted some parking patterns around as well in circulation. What they're looking at today is there's kind of that center courtyard pedestrian area in kind of the middle section of the mall. They are proposing to kind of redesign that into an area that would accommodate through street traffic as well as that diagonal parking. That is how it is in the areas both to the east and the west. Their purpose in making this request, I think, is really reflective of kind of the challenges in retail today. They report that they're about 80% occupied on the whole of the mall, but within that center segment, they're about 64%. So pretty good vacancy rate in there, and I think they talk about the challenge in getting those sort of internal spaces there leased up, and they have had a few tenants leave in that area. So a lot of concern by the council, and I think rightfully so. This was a kind of a hallmark piece of this project back in the day when it was approved and constructed, and something that I think the city fought really hard for to get and to make sure was included, and that it had great landscaping and kind of some placemaking pieces in there, and a place for events. So I think what the shops was working towards is trying to maintain kind of some of those aspects of this. So having the space being able to function as an event space when they wanted to continue, and they plan to continue to do those events. So they would close it off with bollards at either end. So it wouldn't be like you're putting up barricades to close a street. It would be more designed to accommodate that kind of use. The streetscape would be enhanced. There would be more seating areas in there, bigger plaza areas, that kind of thing. So I think the council, recognized what they were trying to work towards. I think some design concerns were raised, that they wanted a better understanding of about, how this would look, how it would function, how it would feel, better understanding of kind of those streetscape elements. So the request was to send them back to do more kind of 3D renderings and bring the council maybe some options, design options that they could consider, which I think resonates with, this was a big deal for the city, and something that, they don't take lightly in sort of changing the course on that. So I think good direction to table this. It'll likely come back at the second July 16th meeting, but with some better 3D renderings of the space, and then some design options for the council to consider.
There was a reference made in the discussion about a similar property over in Woodbury.
That's correct.
Had they changed as well from originally being like Maple Grove to now it sounds like more of the angle parking, or do you recall or know what their background is there?
Yeah, today it is a through street with parking, and some of it is still parallel over there, and they kind of have it anchored on either end. If you've been over there lately, they've built a movie theater on kind of one end of that space. So today, I'm not sure kind of what each of the transitions over at Woodbury Lakes has been, but today it is a through street through there. and it does accommodate parking through there. I know they do have events in that space as well, and do, you know, close that off for those types of events here and there. But, you know, on a normal, you know, kind of day-to-day basis, it is accessed by vehicles for parking as well.
All right, so again, tabled, more discussion to happen, more renderings to come, and we will update you on that as it moves ahead through the discussion.
Yep.
Another item in development is one we had discussed prior and thought this might be coming up for a further discussion, and it did indeed. It's the Grove multi-tenant retail building. Again, if you would give us a little background on this and what the discussion was at the meeting on the 4th.
Yeah, so this is a proposal kind of right at that corner of Hospital Drive and Maple Grove Parkway, just to the west of the new Bobby and Steve's Auto World service station up there, so kind of right that hard corner there. Hempel Properties owns the property now. They've acquired that within the last couple of years. They've been working hard to get those spaces leased up in there. That center has struggled a bit, kind of came online right at the time of the recession. So they are proposing to put a kind of a multi-tenant building, a 2-tenant building with a Caribou, the Caribou Brugger's Bagel combo. We learned on Monday night that that's kind of the new Caribou concept. They're not really building standalone Caribous anymore. They're all this kind of Caribou Brugger's combination. So I think the concerns here are certainly kind of the traffic patterns in and out of the area. Drive-through queuing was a big area of concern. The Planning Commission recommendation came with a condition that they add 2 more spaces in the drive-through. They really aren't open to that because I think it doesn't work for them on the site, but you know, I think we can look to examples around the city where we see incredible queuing at these coffee drive-thrus. And in some areas, you know, when you're backing into a parking lot or you know, an area where you're not impacting, you know, access points, that kind of thing, or maybe it's the back of a building. I think about the Starbucks on Wedgwood there that I drive by every morning. You know,
I've seen the line there as well.
That thing's backed all the way through, you know, to the edge of the parking lot, and so sometimes it doesn't matter and it works. But I think in this situation, there's concern that that's going to back into that access drive. So the direction was to have the developer Hempel go back and redo the traffic study. There's been a couple changes made since that master plan, 2006 master plan was approved. You know, the Bobby and Steve's, they're all commercial buildings, you know, from a zoning perspective, they all fit, but in terms of their traffic patterns, peak times, that kind of thing, some of those uses are a little bit different. Offsetting on the other side is the Park Nicollet Clinic, which tends to have a lower traffic generation, lower peak time, you know, issues. Clinics, people come, stay for a little bit longer. They're not coming in the you know, they're not coming at breakfast and lunch or dinner, kind of a thing. And so all of those things get taken into consideration. So the direction was to have Hempel go back and take a look at that traffic study based on the current uses that are there and the proposed uses that they anticipate coming, and kind of reset the bar. So this is another one that'll come back to July 16th meeting with a little more traffic information there.
And we should mention as well, there were a few people that spoke at the meeting, but there was a nice stack of letters and emails sent to the city as well, so the response was heard from people.
Yeah, we always include any emails that we get at the city that are, you know, in support of or in opposition to an application are always provided to the council and to the public in the packet. And so yes, you're right, there was a good stack of emails that went into that item in the packet.
Very good. We'll continue to update you on that. Next item was the Christofferson addition, and again, something we've talked about a few times, has been working through the process and has been tabled in the past, now came back to the council. It was about a 50-minute discussion. Again, if you can, in a few minutes, tell us about the 50-minute discussion and where we came to come to this meeting, and then where things ended.
Yeah, so this is that addition just south of Bass Lake Road, kind of by the cemetery there, and 69th, 70th kind of dead ends into this properties. You know, the issues that we walked away from, you know, at the last meeting when this got tabled, I think back in April actually, the 2 issues that remained were how to deal with stormwater and then road access. So I think those were still the main focus points. One of the issues was that they asked our staff to go away and do some work on the stormwater options. So Ken Ashfield and his team put together some options. the option I think that was bringing some concern was to directional bore underneath. There's a wooded area, forest preservation area to the west of the edge of this property, to directional bore a stormwater pipe under that would then go into the Elm Creek Basin for conveyance of that water, which is a normal condition all along the Elm Creek Basin. It is a stormwater conveyance for many developments throughout the community. I think the concern came because of that forest preservation, that treed area. So a lot of concerns raised by the Arbor Committee and other members of the community. And not, I think the council recognizes, the need, to have, we have to convey water, and there's a utility function to some of these areas that has been utilized and is a proper way of conveying water in the community. So that issue was at hand. Ken provided them some options to go north up to Bass Lake Road with the stormwater, or back east into the existing development, much more costly, involve the addition of lift stations, that kind of thing, which is an ongoing obligation of the city. So I think from a staff perspective, we felt that the directional boring was an option that was feasible for the project. So that was sort of the stormwater analysis, and Ken provided a memo for the packet on that. With regard to the road, the public utility and public road access, both of those property owners there have an easement access there, but it wouldn't suffice for the conveyance of public utilities and a public road with public right-of-way. So the choice for the city really is that the property owner, the applicant, would need to work with his neighbor to acquire that public access, or the city always has the tool of eminent domain to do a public road access. Generally, there wasn't support for the use of eminent domain. That's a tough one for cities to do. In the case of a trunk highway 610 project, those things happen kind of at the state level for big transportation items, but tough issue for kind of a city street issue for the city council. So planning commission recommendation came forward that the applicant would need to secure the access, so basically acquire the right of way on a private basis, and then that the stormwater would be solved without going through that forest preservation area. That was the planning commission recommendation. So end of the story was that planning commission recommendation was approved on a 3-1 vote. I think there was still some concern over our ability as a city to deal with utility issues that are needed, in and around some of those development areas. So this one then goes forward with that recommendation from the planning commission, and so it's kind of back in the developer's hands or the applicant's hands to solve both the stormwater as well as that road access issue.
So a lot of discussion, but some more work to be done, and again, you think might come back to the council at what time frame? Do you have an estimation?
At this point, we're kind of done with our business on this one right now. This was concept stage plan, and so he has concept stage plan approval with those conditions. Okay. So then it's really up to the applicant how they wish to solve those.
Very good.
Yep.
All right. So a lot of discussion again in the community development area. There were a couple items in community development as we move ahead to update people on. And first is Park 81. People are seeing some activity getting ready to happen there, and also some good news. Tell us about that.
So this is kind of an exciting project, a tough site up there, that Old Wells concrete site. Sites like that sometimes will sit for 30 years, after they close out, and waiting for somebody to come in and kind of repurpose the site. So I think fortunate that Duke came in and acquired that site. They're doing cleanup right now. If you're up there, you might see kind of a creative approach to preparing that site for use. They're doing dynamic compaction, which is really the process of dropping a really huge steel plate from I don't even know what the height is, probably a 20-feet height, and then basically it compacts the material underground such that you can construct a building on it. The material that's underground there is really like concrete and rebar, nothing hazardous, so there wasn't a need to really clean it completely, and this is a tool that's used throughout the construction industry to deal with sites like this. So first building, they've submitted for just shy of about 300,000 square foot industrial building up there. So as they move through this site preparation process, we'll probably see that building start to come out of the ground probably before the summer's over.
Very good.
Yep.
Big change to an area
Yeah.
on the outskirts of Maple Grove. A couple other items. Tell us about a few business notes and also some residential that might be coming up the pipeline.
Yeah, so Abra Auto Body, this is the auto body repair business that's kind of proposed right behind Menards up in the Maple Grove Parkway area. So they're going to be moving forward with their development stage plan. And then Nystrom and Associates, located on 80th Circle, they're just going to be making some changes to their site, removing the bank teller canopy and adding some parking there. We'll see that one come forward. And then we continue in some discussions for additional residential development, both at the Bass Lake Road 101 site as well as up on Territorial Road, kind of that east of Fernbrook Road area. So we'll see more activity up in those projects.
All right, that's your community development update. Moving over to Public Works Engineering, a few things to make note of here. Some road projects that there's some good news to, some continued work, and also Weaver Lake Road. Just give us a little recap there. That people drive that road on a regular basis. They might have seen a few things and looking for a little assistance.
Yeah, so we've had some activity out there. We had a water main break kind of west of the 94 interchange there, so that caused some traffic impacts for a while. That was a fun one. You know, Weaver Lake carries a tremendous amount of traffic every day, and so it's really tough when you have a project out there or an issue like a water main break. Just due east of the 94 bridge, just that pavement's gotten a little tough out there. If you drive that area, you know what you're trying to avoid. So working with Hennepin County there to try to get some of those areas fixed up this summer, and so you'll probably see some activity out there for that as well.
And we've been following the bonding bill and some things happening at the state as they might refer or relate to Maple Grove and also surrounding areas. So give us the recap. Surrounding area looks like it got some help, right? Which is good for Maple Grove.
It's good for Maple Grove.
And then continue lobbying happening maybe on a different level.
Yeah, so bonding bill got signed. We were kind of waiting to see what was going to happen with that, if some of those named projects would be vetoed, but came through with approvals. So the two projects kind of in the Northwest Metro, the Rockford Road Bridge in Plymouth, which has been kind of a long standing project, a priority for Plymouth. That gets done. I think that's good. And then up Brockton Lane in Dayton, kind of at Maple Grove's northern edge. That one got some funding. So certainly helps us on that north edge, provides an option for folks coming from the Rogers-Corcoran area to access the 94 corridor without coming down to the Maple Grove Parkway interchange, which is an area of concern for us because of the volume that interchange handles with those system-to-system movements. So I think that will help us out on the north end. Didn't see funding for Trunk Highway 610 completion, so that's a disappointment to us, and we weren't named for the North Metro Range project as well, but we'll continue to work on those. Sometimes it takes a few years. With regard to Trunk Highway 610 completion, we're continuing to push on that project now, kind of with the I-94 Coalition looking at the federal level of programming. They have a new program. It's kind of the same program, same money, just gets a new name, the BUILD program. And really, you know, honestly trying to leverage some of the state bonding dollars that have been designated to be invested, whether it's in the Brockton interchange or further up 94. They approved Corridors of Commerce funding to add that third lane from St. Michael to Albertville. So all of that helps the 94 corridor, and so we're looking to maybe submit on the federal program to leverage some of those state dollars. So stay tuned on that one. We're not sure what the end of the story is. We have some work to do at the MnDOT level, but that's kind of the approach on that project at this time.
Plenty of transportation talk to go around.
Yes.
A few administrative items to touch on as we close out the meeting from the 4th. Tell us a little bit about interview process going on and a new face with the city.
So we are going to be interviewing for the HR director position on the evening of June 28th. We had about 35 applicants for that position, so we were pretty happy about that, and we'll be doing some internal interviews and then moving towards the council on June 28th. Eric Zwaber with WSB will be with us for the next few months, providing sort of interim community development services, so that he was at the council meeting to kind of listen in and see how we go about our business in Maple Grove.
He picked a good meeting to come to.
He picked a good meeting. It was, lots of opportunity to learn there. So Eric will be with us, and you'll probably see him at future meetings presenting cases. So.
Excellent. So that's the recap of the meeting on the 4th, and we'll tell you about the next meeting in just a couple minutes. But let's hop around town on our next 6 minutes or so to tell you about some things happening. And if you like ribbon cuttings and grand openings, there were plenty going on. Give us a little recap.
Yeah, it was a big week last week. We had Dunkin' Donuts, the Maple Grove Firestone completion Complete Auto Care up off 96th Avenue, the Tide Dry Cleaners at the Village Arbor Lakes, Firehouse Subs reopened under new ownership, and then this weekend Maple Grove Auto World, the Bobby and Steve's up there off Maple Grove Parkway open. So 'tis the season, and it kept the council busy last week.
Check out those new businesses. It's funny to talk about elections right now, but the city thinks about elections quite a bit of the year, especially now, though. Tell us about the need for judges.
Yeah, so absentee voting for the primary election starts June 29th. So we're getting into election season already here. But we are seeking election judges to help run the polls. Primaries August 14th. We don't have a primary for the city council process. That goes to the November election. And then, of course, election day, November 6th. Information on our website about how you can apply. First training opportunity is held Tuesday, July 17th, so we'd love to get people involved with that first session. We are going to be conducting absentee voting at the Government Center for the primary, kind of on the second level in the administration area. For the general, it'll be in the EOC and kind of the basement of the Government Center.
All right, and as always, a lot of information about that on the city's website, so a great place to go. We'll give you that site in just a minute. Photo contest, if you like taking pictures, here's an opportunity to show off your stuff.
Yep, open now on our website through July 18th, and all the details are there. Judging takes place in August, and then we go through a process to award those and provide that recognition to those who contributed.
And all seasons, and there's some rules and regulations there and some ideas, maybe some tips that'll help you along, so take a look at that on the website. We mentioned job openings, talked about one a little bit earlier. Tell us about a couple others more in the engineering area.
Yeah, so we have a utility operations engineer position open through Friday, June 15th. This is Harlan Van Wy, who recently retired, long serving, I think, with the city for about 32 years. And then we have a light equipment operator in the Public Works Department, and that one is open through Monday, June 18th.
All right, information on the city's website as well. Farmers Market, it's been long awaited. It's finally going to be back outside. If you're watching this right away, you're going to catch the first one, but it's an ongoing basis. Tell us about the opening and some of the upcoming dates.
Yeah, so June 7th is our first outdoor market of the season. This is our 15th outdoor season. Market runs 3 to 7, and it's every Thursday now through October 25th.
Great opportunity to pick up things, and the produce and things always change, and entertainment opportunities there as well. Speaking of entertainment, tell us about the Town Green. It's the time to get out that lawn chair and pick your spot over there. It
is Monday, June 11th. We kick off the season at Town Green. Music performances Mondays and Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Kids and family entertainment Thursdays at 10:30 a.m. And then the movies at sunset start in mid-July, July 13th, right around Maple Grove Days time.
All right, a great schedule of events coming up, and another event coming up very quickly here, and Heidi's been watching the weather to assure us it's going to be good. The Chalk Fest is back on Main Street.
Yeah, this weekend Chalk Fest starts on Main Street. You'll see the signs up for road closure there, so that's what that's about. 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. Both days. I know they do cover things at night because of the potential of rain and whatnot, so come out during the day. If you haven't been, it is really a remarkable event and really fun, and there's other entertainment things going on at the same time, so really encourage people to come on out and take part and patronize a business while you're here, have some lunch.
It's one of those events that you kind of want to go one time and then go away for a few hours, come back a little later and see the progress, because it is just amazing, and again, right on Main Street. A few other items to touch on. One coming up here again in June. This is with the police department with some ice cream cones.
Yeah, coffee and cones with a cup. So this is a little bit of different, Ben. They've just been coffee with a cup, but now we're adding ice cream. So this one's going to be at the McDonald's on 83rd Way, Wednesday, June 13th from 5 to 6:30 p.m. A host of our officers are out there just to engage with the community, and we welcome and encourage people to attend.
All right, final note is Maple Grove Days. Believe it or not, it's about that time. That happens in July 11th through the 15th this year, 30th year of the event. Why should people come out? Where are the focal points of activity?
So parade, of course, Thursday night. Events, kick off early in that week with various sports events at different parks and things. But parade Thursday night, coronation on Friday night, all the big events on Saturday, fireworks capping off Saturday night. So mark your calendar for that week, July 11th through the 15th.
I've seen the stack of information from Deb Syrie and the gang, and it's thick, so a lot to go on. Heidi, thank you very much for the information. Quickly leave you with the next council meeting date is June 18th. Website at the middle of the screen. We thank you very much for joining us. Hope to see you next time on the Maple Grove City Report.